And welcome back to WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. We have a special guest on the phone right now, former Olympic gold medalist, four-time Stanley Cup champion. That's only half of his accolades, Ken Morrow. This is Michael Zahn from WHIP. How are you doing today, Ken?
Doing great. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you on the show, especially with Olympic hockey heating up today. So let's get right into it. What is your opinion on allowing NHL pros to play in the Olympics? Does it dilute the meaningfulness of a victory such as the 1980 gold medal?
Oh, no, it doesn't dilute it at all. It's just times have changed. Back in 1980, there was a whole different view of the Olympics. Certainly when I grew up, it was all amateurs in every event. And then, things changed, I believe, probably in the late 80s, early 90s with basketball and then with hockey coming in. And I'm torn on the subject. I mean, I certainly understand as a hockey fan that if you want to see the best in the world, you have to have NHL players there, and it certainly makes for some great hockey. But I also understand that when you do that you'll never have another Miracle on Ice. We certainly got our chance because amateurs were allowed to play, and I think eventually it will go back. If not the next Olympics, I think soon after.
Okay, so how much of a transition was it to play on a different sized rink used for the international play versus the rinks you did growing up?
Yeah, it is a difference. I think it'll still be a factor in these Olympics. Just to explain for people that don't know, they'll be playing on Olympic-sized ice, which is 200 feet by 100 feet, so it's 15 feet wider than the normal NHL rink, which is 200 by 85. And it makes a world of difference out there. It's much more ice to cover. With our team back in 1980, we did play several games on the big ice surface. We were able to go to Lake Placid and train on the bigger ice. We played some games over in Europe where we played teams on bigger ice, and it certainly helps. These guys aren't going to get that chance because they're obviously coming together here just a few days before the tournament starts. So I think it'll be an advantage for the European teams.
Yeah, so when you played for the United States, you and your teammates got the chance to practice together for months, play scrimmages and exhibitions. Obviously, a lot of the nations now, they're being sent over and have such little time to gel together. Do you think that impacts the play?
It does. Herb Brooks, credit to him for, we were the first team that actually did play together and live together for, I believe it was 5 months before the Olympic Games. And prior to that, they had been just putting teams together a week or two before, playing a couple exhibition games and going over. And I think that's why, Herb Brooks made the comment that, the NHL All-Star Games, it's hard to come together as a team. It's just a collection of individuals basically, and so I think the one advantage here is that a lot of these guys in the NHL have either played with or against each other growing up. So there is some familiarity there, and I think they're used to this now. They've played enough tournaments over the years that they kind of know what's involved.
Now you brought up your former coach of the 1980 gold medal team, Herb Brooks. There are stories circulating that the late Herb Brooks had a policy of his players being clean-shaven, but he made an exception for you. What is the real inside story that allowed you to keep your beard at the time?
Wow, that's a great question because I didn't know at the time that he had any rule, and I didn't know until many years later. Somebody had interviewed him, and that's exactly what he said. He said that, yes, he did have a rule, but that, in his words, he was concerned that I might turn pro if he asked me to shave my beard, which was totally wrong. I would have, he never asked, so I never shaved it. But yeah, my college coach allowed me to have my beard. I used to grow it in the summer times, then shave it before going back to school. And for my senior year, my college coach actually told me I could keep it as long as I kept it clean shaved. Didn't let it get too shaggy. And so I was allowed to keep it for my senior year in college, and then went to the Olympic tryouts, and figured I'd end up having to shave it, and just was never asked.
Yeah, well, you brought up your time at college, so you played at Bowling Green. So how is it to accommodate in such a short period of time? You're playing at Bowling Green, then you're playing under Herb Brooks for the Olympic team, and then you're going to Al Arbor. And then a follow up question to that: how is it playing in front of someone like Jim Craig, and then adjusting to playing in front of Billy Smith?
Yeah, well, I guess first of all, I was just such a lot of good fortune for me. The coaches that you named, Ron Mason at Bowling Green, who I played for 4 years, one of the all-time great legendary college coaches. He held, up until recently, he held the record for the most wins ever by a college coach. So, I got to play for one legend there, going on to Herb Brooks, who was a legend. Even back in 1980, he had won 3 national championships in the 70s at the University of Minnesota, and then, obviously the Olympic victory, ranks him right up there with the all-time great coaches in any sport. And then to go to Al Arbor, who's a Hall of Fame coach, he and Scotty Bowman are considered the 2 best NHL coaches of all time. So it certainly, that alone made it, an easier adjustment. These guys were winners. These guys were incredible coaches at any level, and so that made the transition for me a lot easier. And in regards to goaltending, I mean, as a player, you play in front of different goalies all the time, so there's really not much of an adjustment there.
Yeah. So bringing it now down to present day, I'll admit I see a fair number of players that appear to be stars at their current level, but then they cannot seem to make it to the next level. There are also guys who seem like less like stars at one level, but then are put in positions with new teams and they become stars. With you being the director of pro scouting for the Islanders, how do you distinguish between whether a player appears good on the ice because of the surrounding talent is of a lesser caliber versus a guy who really has what it takes? So, for example, the Islanders were able to recognize the talent of a Matt Moulson, even though he could never be a mainstay with the LA Kings, and he had 3 30-goal seasons with the Islanders.
Yeah, as much as they try and make scouting out to be a scientific process, and they're always continuing to tinker with that to make it more, to swing the odds more in your favor, a lot of times there's still just some dumb luck involved, believe it or not. And, I know there are, not only us, but there are every team in any sport, there are players that surprise, the Tom Brady's that were taken in the 6th round. Everybody can say, hey, New England was brilliant in making that pick in the 6th round, but the truth is that if you'd asked them back then, they were just taking a chance on a kid, and probably, the odds were that it wasn't going to work out. And it just happens. Who knows why? You mentioned Matt Moulson, who hadn't really been able to break in with the LA Kings. We signed him not realizing at the time that he's going to turn out to be a 30-goal scorer 3 years in a row for us. And so, sometimes you luck into it. Sometimes you have a hunch. Other times you do your homework and you do find a diamond in the rough. And, it's a little bit of everything, truthfully, when you're building a team.
Yeah, so I guess now a follow-up question now to that is, as the director for pro scouting, what does that role, involve? Are you the one who recommends to Gart Snow what players to consider trading for? Do you prepare a team for an opponent's tendencies? What exactly does your job entail?
Yeah, I started in 1992, which was really when most NHL teams were just starting to bring on pro scouts. At that time, they were just using their amateur scouts to go out and see a few of the NHL games, because the truth is there wasn't a lot of player movement up to that point. The only player movement was through trades. There wasn't any real free agency to speak of in hockey. And then there was a work stoppage in 92, a work stoppage in 94. Free agency became a little more prevalent. And so when I started in 92, it was more just going out, getting a handle on all the other organizations, watching both the NHL and the top minor league teams. And just so whenever trade talk was happening, you would have a better handle on players. And then it evolved into both trades and free agents, because you had to have a handle on guys that were going to be coming out into the free agent market. And I would say it's at this point it's become more about free agents than anything else. The salary cap has made it tougher to make trades, and free agency now is at 27 years old for some players. So the truth is that you're out there making sure you know the players that are pending restricted and unrestricted free agents, and then the occasional trade that happens.
Yeah, so bringing it back to your playing days, as a defenseman, how do rule changes like the removal of the red line and the goalie trapezoid change the way you would have played the game if you were playing in today's NHL?
Yeah, well, I always liked not having the red line. I say that because that's the way it was played in college when I played. And so when I came into the NHL, the red line came in, and I just thought it restricted, slowed the game down a little bit, but that was just the way it was. And so when they made the rule changes, and I believe it was coming out of the lockout in 2004, the NHL tried to open the game up. I was all for them taking the red line out. I just think it takes away a lot of whistles. It makes a faster game, and I think it's been a huge success for the league. You mentioned the trapezoid. I'm not a fan of the trapezoid. I guess if I had a vote, I'd vote it out. I believe you either make it so a goalie can't come out at all, or you let them play pucks. Trying to do it half and half, where they can play it, but they can't play it in a certain area, I think just makes it that much more confusing, not only for the players, but for the fans that are watching the game. So, generally speaking, I love all the rule changes. I like the shootout. That they've tried to get the obstruction out of the game. It's a much faster game. I think it's an entertaining game. I just think they've made some great adjustments to the game.
Now, Ken, considering that you were the Central Collegiate Association Player of the Year, and then you had been scheduled or selected to play in the Olympics, how important was the role of a Mike Eruzione play as your captain? And then after that, when you joined the Islanders, players like Potvin and then Brent Sutter played as the captain of your team. How did they help you adjust and feel comfortable being a player on their team?
I was lucky, and I say fortunate, and that really is the word for me, because I had some terrific teammates in college. We had a lot of success at Bowling Green, and then fast forward to the Olympic team, where you have a Mike Eruzione, who was just a veteran leader. What he did speaks for itself. He scores the goal that everybody remembers against the Russian team, which was real fitting. But as he said, he was the captain amongst captains on that team, because most of the guys that were on that Olympic team had been captains on their college teams. So, we weren't lacking for leadership by any means. And then going on to the Islanders, I come in there and I'm a young kid, feeling my way around, and I'm surrounded by all these, eventual Hall of Famers. You mentioned Trottier, Potvin, Mike Bossy, Clark Gillies. We had not just one leader; we had a whole bunch of them. So it just, that's, to me, that's a huge part of any team having success, and I had it at all those different levels.
You bring up the likes of Nystrom and Gillies, and obviously they were kind of guys that had no issue, dropping the mitts, and you're someone who didn't exactly have that many majors. How important was it for someone maybe like Clark Gillies, where he decides to take on a Dave Brown or a Terry O'Reilly or even another tough guy? How important is it that he wins the fight, or is it just the fact that he engages in the fight that amps up the team?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going back to a different era than, back in the late 70s, early 80s, when, the Broad Street Bullies had brought in that style of hockey, and it was, intimidation played a big part in NHL hockey back then. So, I think the Islanders were always considered to be a team that could play any style you wanted. If a team wanted to drop the mitts, you mentioned Bobby Nystrom, Clark Gillies. These guys didn't lose fights, and they also could play the game. These guys weren't just the guys that went out and fought and sat in the penalty box. These were guys that were, Hall of Famers. They were 30-goal scorers. They were, if a team wanted to rough Mike Bossy or anybody up, they stepped in and took care of it. And, they get a lot of the credit for what happened back in 1980 for getting the Islanders over that hump. Especially in that series against Boston back in 1980, when Clark and Terry O'Reilly went at it four different times in that series, and Boston, the knock on the Islanders at that time was that they could be intimidated, and these guys stepped up and said that that's not going to happen. So we had Gary Howitt, and it just was a whole team mentality, team toughness, but those guys led the way.
Now, bringing it to the lighter side of hockey, did you have any superstitions before playing in a big game? And as well as what were some of the oddest superstitions of players that you played in with the Olympics and teammates of the Islanders?
Oh, boy. I guess you could write a book on that stuff. I think anybody that plays any sports has superstitions. It's just to what degree. I had my own. The way I put equipment on in hockey, it can take you a half hour to 45 minutes from start to finish, to get equipped. And so I had my superstitions involve more, putting on left skate, first right skate, left shin guard, right shin guard. And I think a lot of players, with their sticks, the way they tape their sticks, I think it just runs the whole gamut, depending on the player. Billy Smith didn't want anybody to touch his equipment. Nobody came around to stall. He had everybody definitely afraid, our stick men, our equipment guys, on a game day, that you didn't come anywhere near him or his equipment or anything else. And on the Olympic team, I don't remember being quite that intense. I think when you get to the NHL level, maybe it gets a little, as you get a little older, maybe it becomes more so. That's just my experience with it.
Yeah, you bring up Billy Smith, and no one in the room could touch his stick, and I think that's probably more so because he made sure he took care of business while he was out there, as he's another one who most certainly could fight his own battle in some ways. So that yeah.
Oh, sure, yeah, Billy. I mean, he's he may be considered I guess maybe the toughest goalie of all time, if you want to say that. I mean, he was, he's considered to be the biggest money goalie of all time for coming up big in the playoffs, and then just the way he played the game. There was nobody more intense than Billy. He played to win at all costs. If I was a defenseman and I was trying to clear a guy out in front of his net, he would take me out along with the other guy. That's just the way Billy was. You had to watch your ankles and everything else. And, at that time, the goal crease was small. It was about half the size that it is nowadays. They look to protect the goalies more like they do the quarterbacks in the NFL. In those days, they had to make their own, they had to protect themselves. And so Billy took that upon himself, and he made sure that if anybody was going to come into his crease, they were going to pay the price.
Yeah. So bringing it quickly back to the Olympics, after an emotional win against Russia in the semifinals, how did the team retain focus to come back and basically play a game against Finland and then win gold? Because a lot of people forget that the game against the Soviet team was not actually the gold medal game. So how did you guys retain focus to win gold against Finland?
Well, you're right, and most people don't know that even though we had beaten Russia on Friday evening, we had to come back and play Finland Sunday morning. And if we'd have lost that game, there was a mathematical chance that we wouldn't have won a medal at all. So, what a huge disappointment that would have been, coming off this monumental upset, to have, ended up walking away with, a silver or bronze or no medal at all. That would have been really hard to take. So Herb Brooks did the greatest coaching job Saturday morning. We had come into practice Saturday to get ready for Sunday morning, and the players obviously were, we were a young team. We were feeling pretty good about ourselves, and Herb quickly put us in our place. He put the hammer down, and he ran us through maybe one of the hardest practices we had been through all year. And he knew that we needed to get our attention on what was at hand, and we were playing a really good Finland team, and again found ourselves down 2-1 going into the third period. We had come from behind in 5 of the 7 games that Olympics, so I guess we were in a familiar position of having to come from behind again.
Well, I think for sure he did a hell of a coaching job and made sure that you guys won gold. So just also now bringing it back onto present day, I understand you're involved in trying to bring bring NHL hockey to Kansas City. Given that your competition is alleged to be Seattle and Las Vegas. How do you think Kansas City would make a better option for the league to pursue? And is it all about geographic rivalries, for example, St. Louis, Chicago, and even perhaps Dallas?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm not involved personally trying to bring a team here. I'm just more. I know people that have been trying for several years, and so I'm just here more to support than anything else. I've lived in Kansas City since 1990. They just built a beautiful new arena. I believe it's been about 5 years now, right downtown. They're all teed up and ready to go here, and it really is up to the NHL at this stage. All they can do here is just have everything in place and be ready for the call. And whether that call come, you really don't know. That depends on ownership. It depends on a lot of different factors. But I'd love to see it happen. There's no doubt about that. You mentioned geographic rivalries. You got St. Louis right across the state, which is a terrific hockey town, always has been, always will be. You've got Minnesota here in the Midwest. You've got Colorado. You've got some natural rivalries that even evolve around the football team here. That they have rivalries with some other cities, Minnesota, and that would fit right in with what you're trying to do in the NHL. So whether it'll happen, I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah. So now before you go, I have one last question. It's actually a two-part question. Do you still follow the Olympics? And if so, what's your prediction for the medals for the 2014 Olympics?
Yes, I follow the Olympics. I have since I was a little kid. I mean, my memories go back to just, being a young kid, watching, every 4 years when the Olympics would come around, I was glued to the TV. It seems like, nowadays it's 24 hours in front of the TV, but even back then, you were in prime time, you were watching all the Olympics. It was always the U.S. against Russia. That was the biggest thing, was trying to win more medals than Russia, because they were the arch enemy at that time. So, and it's been that way. That was just kind of ingrained in me. So I'm no different now. I love watching. Whether it's winter or summer, I watch all the events, and there's just something about it. The Olympics are unlike any other sporting event in the world, and I think it always will be. So let's go USA. You asked me about the hockey.
The prediction. Yeah.
The one thing about the hockey, it's not like the basketball where you only got a couple teams that are really contenders. In hockey, you've got legitimately 6 or 7 teams that could walk away with a gold medal. So I'd say just throwing a dart. I know U.S. has been predicted by a lot of people, and I'd hate to go against that, so I'm going to say USA. And I'll pick a couple teams. I'll say Sweden or Canada will be. I'm hoping that'll be the final. And that's not to say that you don't have Russia playing on their home ice. That'll be, they might be the favorite going in. And then you've got Finland, Slovakia, Switzerland. You've got some really good teams besides that.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you hopping on board with us, Ken, and thank you for giving us a few minutes of your time.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.